Hello, we are almost done with 4-1. We're doing part 3 right now. Solving for missing angle. Today's date is today, and our objective, we're going to use trig ratios to solve for a missing angle. So we've talked about trig ratios, we've talked about missing sides. Today we're going to talk about missing angles. So when we are finding missing angles, we're going to use what we call inverse sine, inverse cosine, or inverse tangent, and you are going to definitely need to use your calculator on this one. Back in the day, they used to have actually long tables where people would look them up, but that was a pain in the neck. So your calculator is going to save you a lot of time. That superscript of -1 up there just means the inverse. We did inverse functions first semester, and you saw that same notation. That's all that this really is. And to do it on your calculator, you're going to typically hit the second button, and then whatever ratio you're doing. So if it were sine, it'll do that. And then what should show up on your calculator should be sine with that superscript of -1. And that'll show that you're doing the inverse sine. You use inverse sines when you know that trig ratio and you're finding the angle. Again, each calculator can be slightly unique, so I'm kind of giving you just a general function there. So let's go ahead and do our first one. We're going to use the trig function to find the measurement of theta. So here's theta. So I'm going to ask myself, what do I know? Well, I know what is opposite, and I know the hypotenuse. So I'm going to set up my trig ratio. Let's do it right here. So I know that the sine is going to be opposite over hypotenuse. So that is going to be 12 over 15.7. Well, that tells me that ratio, but I want just to know that angle. So I'm going to do the inverse sine of that ratio, which is 12 over 15.7. So in your calculator, you would do second sine, and then, depending on how your calculator is, 12 over 15.7. You could also do 12 divided by 15.7. That's the exact same thing. And that'll tell you your degree, and it's about 50 degrees. If you know that they use the approximate sign because it's not coming out exact, you will have to round just a little. Also, make sure again that your degree or your calculator is in degree mode. We haven't talked about radians yet. That's the other mode that you can be in. It will mess up your answer if you are in the wrong mode. Let's go ahead and look at another one. I'm going to ask you to pause. Try this one on your own. I might go ahead and help get you started. Ask yourself what you know. You know the opposite, and you know the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent is tangent. So tangent theta is going to be 11 over 7. Go ahead, use your calculator to figure out theta. Yep, you should have gotten 58 degrees. Let's go ahead and do a word problem. The chairlift at a ski resort rises at an angle of 20.75 while traveling up the side of a mountain and attains a vertical height of 1,200 feet when it reaches the top. How far does the chairlift travel up the side of the mountain? Okay, and they were nice. They gave us a picture. And if you notice, it's not drawn to scale or anything, but it gives us a good enough idea. They're giving us an angle. They're giving us the picture of how the skier is traveling up and all the pertinent information. So let's go ahead and solve that. On that, I know the side opposite, which is 1,200, and I'm looking for the hypotenuse. So if I know opposite and looking for hypotenuse, that would be sine. The sine of 20.75 equals 1,200 over d. Solve for d, and we get 3,387. I know we're supposed to be finding angles. We threw a side in just for fun. Try this one on your own. The answer is 38,637. All right. On this one, we want to solve the whole triangle. When they say solve the whole triangle, that means just find every missing side, every missing angle. So we're going to start with F and H, finding those trig ratios. So the sine of 41.4 is opposite over hypotenuse, F over 28. You multiply both sides by 28, and you get F equals 18.5. To find the cosine, or I'm sorry, to find the H then, we could use cosine, and you get 21.0. I'm not sure if that's the method I would have gone with originally, but since we're practicing trig ratios, that's fine. Let's take a look at this again and see if we can find a maybe a better or more efficient way. We found H is 18.5. Ask yourself if there's another way that you might have gone about doing that, because I know I probably would have used the Pythagorean theorem at this point. 18.5 squared plus h squared equals 28 squared. It will give us the same answer. And then to find that missing angle, you know that the sum of all the angles in a triangle have to be 180 degrees. So you can just subtract. So on this one, let's do another example. On this one, they do use the Pythagorean theorem. They're giving us two sides, 5 and 9. And we know it's a right triangle, so our trig ratios will work. We want to find that missing hypotenuse, and you get 100 radical 106, which is about 10.3. Once we know that, we can go ahead and get some other important information like those angles. When I do this, I'm going to start with kind of how they did it. I'm going to start with the information that they gave us. Here's angle B, and these are two that were already known, 5 and 9. So that's opposite, and that is adjacent. So the tangent of 5 over 9 is what tangent B is. So angle B would be the inverse tangent of 5 over 9. You need your calculator for that, and you're going to get about 29 degrees. So once you know that, you can find C from subtracting it from 90 degrees, and you get 61 degrees. All right. On this one, let's see if you guys can do this one on your own. They give you one side and one angle. I would probably start with finding side B if I were doing this problem. Give you a hint to start with. That's the opposite. And if you notice, the sides are always lowercase, angles are always uppercase. Side and angles are always opposite each other. So angle A will always be opposite side A. Same thing for B. Angle B will always be opposite side B. So we know that the sine of 64 degrees will be side B over the hypotenuse, 92. All right, finish it up. Yep, you should have gotten letter B. Well, that's all we have for finding missing angles. Give you a chance to do some of your homework, and then you are ready to take that lesson quiz. Enjoy.